So guys, back again with part 3 of my guard breakdown for the new Astra Militarum Codex. This one's hopefully going to be a short one compared to the HQ part, because that was, I think, close to an hour, which was a bit longer than I wanted it to be. Troops, generally for guard, hasn't changed at all. The few changes are for the better, but there hasn't been anything major. Your first troop choice is your infantry platoon, which Guard have always had. The main changes have been point reductions, which is always nice, means more guardsmen. Your platoon command squad now comes at 30 points, which I think before it was 40. And looking at its options, there aren't any general changes. The orders still work the same. Platoon commanders can still only give out one order a turn, and I think the change has been that the range is now 12. I'm still reading that through. I'm a bit confused. I think if I've understood it right, the range is now 12, which is better because it used to be 6. But other than that, platoon command squads haven't changed. Next is the thing I think every guard player is going to have is an infantry squad. You need to have a minimum of 2 in each in a platoon. You need to have a minimum of your platoon command and the 2 infantry squads as the bare bones. That's your troop choice. And again, same points as they were before. I can't see any difference in options for special weapons. Still take a Vox. No, I can't see any changes. The main one I can see is you can now take the Taurox, which, as vehicles go, it is good. It's got the ability to re-roll failed difficult terrain tests without needing to take dozer blades. But it's, I think, 15 points cheaper than a... Yeah, it's only 15 points cheaper than the Chimera. It only has... You can only take a basic Taurox for your transports, which have got twin-linked autocannons, which isn't amazing. It's good, it's an autocannon, but it's the only weapon it can have. I can't see, it doesn't have any options to change that out for anything, so that's literally all it has. And it's 1 less armour on the front than the Chimera. I can't see replacing the Chimera really. So that's the one change to infantry squads I've seen, which is that you can take a Taurox. But again, you might as well just stick with Chimeras because I can't see the advantage. Next up is heavy weapons. At first glance, I thought these had got great, taken a decent price reduction because it was now 45 points for a squad. Then realised you have to buy a heavy weapon. And the cheapest one is a mortar, which is 5 points. So if you equip the heavy weapon squads in the same way they used to come basic from the old Codex, they're still 60 points, which is still fine. It's still heavy weapon squads I used to use quite regularly. I used to run 2 squads of 3 with las cannons, which wasn't cheap. It was about 105 points, which isn't cheap, especially for 3 toughness 3 2 wound models. But the ability to make with the orders now, linking it using your orders from your officers is going to be reasonably effective, which will boost them. So what orders can you use? Fire on my target for ignore cover, bring it down for tank control and las cannons could be nasty. Reroll into pen, reroll to win against monsters. Take aim could be quite good. Take 3 autocannons and get precision shot. You could start. It's one of those things the las cannon teams wouldn't benefit from enough because you're only getting 3 shots. You want something that's firing out quite a bit, so you increase your chance of precision shot. But that'd be all the orders. Those 3 orders would benefit them, which is nice. Next up is special weapon squads, which this is for all the guard players who had spare guardsmen from squads. when you've upgraded 2 of them to a heavy weapon, 1 of them gets a special weapon, which used to be the old metal pewter figures. You used to always have 3 guardsmen spare. So now, and that was what I used them for. I was using them for special weapon squads. You can, again, I don't think they changed point-wise. It's still got the same options. The way I was looking at running them was you can now take 3 demo charges, I think, from the special weapons list. Let's see what that gets you. Snipers, flamers, grenade launchers. Hotshot volley guns are only for Tempesta skiing, so you can't take that. Melter gun, plasma gun. 3 plasma guns, but then again, that's the basic squad is 30 points and you're paying 45 points for the weapons, so you're paying more for the weapons than you are for the 6 guardsmen. And then again, demolition charges at 20 points each, but you can run 3, and with Valkyries now being dropped down to only having 6 spaces in them, a special weapon squad drops out the back late on in the game and drops 3 strength 10 AP2 large blasts on something important, a row of tanks, because you could hit multiple, hitting objective halt squads on objectives, terminators. Nothing would enjoy that. It's really good for 90 points, 100 points. It is a suicide squad in sense, but you wouldn't be too worried about them accidentally blowing themselves up with the demo charges if it scatters back, with them only being 6 guardsmen at that point, so you aren't going to... If they're still there, at the end of the next opponent's turn, I'd be very surprised. They'll either have blown themselves up or been killed by the enemy in response, I think. But again, they're there. The last option you get for adding to your infantry platoon is a conscript squad, which are a lot better because they've suddenly got cheaper. Now I think they used to be 4 points a model, now they're 3. It's not a huge difference, but when you're thinking you're going to be buying, you can have up to 50. That's really good. I like the idea of conscripts, especially with the way you can work priests into squads now, where for 2 priests and 1 platoon, you could have 2 blobs of 50 guardsmen, one not as effective as the other because it's only conscripts, but 2 blobs of 50 guys for 1 troop choice, which are fearless. So that was the way I think of running them. Just because 50 fearless guards, you'd stick them kind of Aegis, you'd spend the entire game gone to ground for your 3-up cover. You'd scatter them out so there's not a lot of chance that you don't suffer from blasts massively. You'd still take blast hits because it's 50 guys. It's hard to space them all 2 inches apart, but that's how I could see using them. Just use them as, I stick these on my objective, these guys are fearless, and they're going either you're going to have to do something serious to shift them, or I'm going to have my objective at the end of the game. The priest is one model. The thing that I'm reading at the moment is priest can be sniped, but if you stick them at the back, hide it behind a tank, because you're going to have a big mob and you could hide your tanks in there so your tanks can't get charged. Hiding behind a tank so he's out of line of sight of anything and he can't get shot unless something like the Tau, I think the smart missile systems and stuff ignores cover and doesn't need line of sight. That could snipe him, but again that hasn't got precision shot, so you'd be taking it on the conscripts first. That's how I'd run it. I'd hide him, get him in. It's like the Icon of Vengeance for the Chaos Marine squads. People said don't buy the icons because it's one guy and once he's dead you'll lose the ability. If you play it clever, you can hide him and he could be the last man standing. I had quite a few games with my Chaos Marines when the 19 other guys he was with died and it was him hiding behind a rhino, and that was the reason he was the only one alive, because I'd hidden him. So that's what I'd do. Blob of 50 conscripts with a priest for 50 fearless guys. Sounds like a damn good plan, I think. Right then, next up for the only other troop choice option for guard, which is your veterans, have improved. They've got cheaper. again. Generally, that's what you're getting with all the new codexes. Stuff's getting cheaper, and options that were expensive now becoming reasonably priced and more likely to be taken. So now the 60 points rather than 70, I think. Again, 3 of them can get the special weapons. You can swap out for a heavy weapon as well. You can take, all of them can have shotguns, but I think with shotguns being assault weapons, you don't really want your veterans in combat because you've got the better ballistic skill. I'd stick with las guns just for the fact that you can shoot at 24 inches. You get a Vox caster as normal. That's just for making your orders more likely. It isn't as necessary if you're wanting to save the 5 points, because you're at least your Pt2, so you're better than the basic guardsman. But I generally always took one just because the fact that reroll was, if you really need to get an order off, that really helps. The 3 doctrines you can now take, you've got Grenadiers, which gives them carapace armor for 15 points. I think I've said it in an earlier video, I don't like carapace armor on guardsmen. 4-up save, with guardsmen being toughness 3, a 4-up save isn't going to help them. Whatever's going to be shooting at them will be, if it causes a lot of wounds, a 4-up save isn't going to make a huge difference. Because I don't see the advantage. The next option is forward sentries, which, like Grenadiers, have got a considerable amount of points cheaper, and forward sentries personally is the better option. It was 30, it is now 10, and all models in that unit get camo gear, which gives them the equivalent of stealth, but it can't be passed on to models that join the squad. So you could either have for 15 points a 4-up armor save, which can be ignored, or a +1 to your cover save, which if you're in a building or behind your Aegis, you're getting a 3-up cover. And generally, unless you're playing Tau or Eldar, you're not going to have your cover save ignored unless there's flamers. That's the way I think I'd run them. And then the last option is demolition experts, which for 30 points, every model in the squad gets a melter bomb, and 1 of them gets a demo charge. So if you wanted a suicide squad in a Valkyrie, you could run 3 guys with melter guns, 1 guy with a demo charge, and the other guys with melter bombs, and they could drop out of their Valkyrie and be like, whatever tank tank or heavy armor we've been sent after is going to die reliably, I'd have thought. It is a very expensive suicide squad because it's coming in at 120 points basic for the 3 melter guns and your demolitions experts, and you haven't got a transport at that point. The one thing I did see was in the old one, which was the Dragon Slayer squad, which was a 100-point veteran squad, all with melter bombs and demolition charge. And with how monstrous creatures have changed, they can reliably take down a monstrous creature by running up and strapping a melter bomb to its face. I played a squad of them once as a joke, and they ran up and killed a Tyrannosaurus, which easily got the points back, but it isn't reliable. And that was more of a joke unit. The way I'd go with veterans, as they're now cheaper, quite a good 30 points cheaper from what they were. Give them forward sentries, give them some longer ranged heavy weapons, keep them as the squad that sits back and specifically is picking off targets you need to die. So could give them 3 snipers and a las cannon, and that benefits from your VS4. I think that's how I'd go. One option you can have for veteran squads is upgrade the Sergeant to Harker, and for 55 points he's expensive, so he isn't going to be in every army. I run him if I'd got the points, because he himself is relentless and brings his awesome heavy bolter payback, which is, it's a heavy bolter with rending, which is always nice. It's one of those things, if you've got 55 points spare, maybe in a bigger game, I wouldn't bring him in low, like 1,000-point games, because that's a considerable chunk on one model, which will. He is toughness 4, but he hasn't got a very good. He's got a 5-up save, so he could. 55 points in a guard army is another squad, generally. So if you've got the points, bring him. I like him. If you take him, you can't have grenadiers, but again, I wouldn't pick grenadiers out of them. I'd stick them in forward sentries. In theory, you could have him, another heavy bolter, and 3 sniper rifles in a squad. Could be quite nice with forward sentries for your cover. That'd be quite good. Throwing out 6 strength 5 AP4 shots a turn, plus 3 sniper rounds, plus las guns when they're slightly closer. And again, you can take a Taurox, but I think the general consensus is the Taurox just isn't as good as a Chimera, and the model isn't very nice, which is a shame. I've seen some conversions which make it look really nice, whether you've made it into either a half track or like the 6-wheeled armoured trucks that the US Army are using currently, I think. I can never remember the name of them. But yeah, that's veterans and that's Harkit. The last 3 model options I was going to talk about was your transports. First one up is the Chimera, which has got more expensive. I think it was originally, in the last book, it was 55 points. It's now 65. It isn't a huge amount of difference. The difference it has been made is its weapons. It used to be able to just have 5 guys fire out the hatch. So for a veteran squad with 3 special weapons and a heavy weapon, it was a good bunker to hide in because you could pop out and fire everything. Now you can only fire 2 models out the top, and you've got 2 lasgun arrays on the sides which can shoot at separate targets, and each consists of 3 lasguns which fire at the BS of 3 because it has to be the same. It has to use the Chimera's ballistic skill, which isn't as good. It's more expensive and you've lost the option. I'd still take them. There's still a great transport because for 65 points you're getting armor 12 on the front, 3 hull points. Give it camo netting and it gets its +1 to cover. This is something that I've gone with looking at throughout the Codex. If I'm going to take anything, if I get the option to give it a +1 to its cover save, I'm taking it, because realistically, have 5 of these for 325 points in a row behind an Aegis with 5 heavy bolters and 5 multi-lasers, with veterans firing heavy weapons and stuff out the hatch. It is an effective gun line just from your transports. Then you're backed up by your armour. 325 points for that isn't, I don't feel, too expensive. It's, in my eyes, it's better than when you used to see Razorback spam, because Razorbacks only had 1 weapon, where these, though they're only BS3, you do get more weapons and the guys are firing out. Plus you can hide them behind the Aegis for the cover save, because Chimera's been... I got one about. I've got my Chimera I'm working on, which it didn't come with. It was a trade with someone and it didn't have the side panel, so I've had to build my own. Being what it is, it's quite low down. It's only about an inch high, if that, for the main hull. So you could easily hide that behind Aegis and get your cover save, and then firing your 2 weapons. That's how. That's what I'm looking at anyway. The next option is Taurox, which I've mentioned. It isn't. It's 15 points cheaper. It doesn't have a second weapon. It loses a point of armor on the front. If you really wanted to run the new models, yes, they're there, but they aren't. Unless someone's got a trick, which I haven't seen yet, I'd stick with Chimeras personally. Next, for 50 points, it's reasonable. If you wanted to have cheaper transports and literally just have bare bones, because the ones are the Chimera with its camo netting is 80 points. So if you wanted bare bones transports, Tauroxes would work, because you don't need the dozer blades to be getting around cover and stuff. But I'd probably stick with a Chimera if you just want for a basic transport. Right, then the last unit I'm going to cover in this video is the Taurox Prime, which is the Taurox option for Tempestus Skians, which is the Stormtroopers. This one is, I do like the look of this one. For 80 points, it's got Ballistic Skill 4, which is better, and it has a wider range of weapons you can have on it, which it starts off with the Taurox Battle Cannon and a pair of twin-linked hotshot lasguns. The twin-linked hotshot lasguns, sorry, which is the now 4-shot strength 4 AP3, so they're nice. And the battle cannon, which is strength 7 AP4, so it's good on the transport. You've got the option to replace the battle cannon with the Gatling cannon, which is a strength 4 heavy 10, so it's like the baby's first Punisher. So if you wanted to be daft and run 9 Punishers and then some Taurox Primes with Gatlings, that's a lot of ridiculous high number of shots going out. Personally, I'd stick with the battle cannon. The next option is the Taurox missile launcher, which is a cyclone missile launcher in all but name. It's 2 shots, either crack missiles or frag missiles, which again could be nice, but for 20 points, it's starting to ramp it up to 100 points, which is double a Rhino and 20 more points than my Chimera with its camo netting, so it's getting expensive at this point. And then the last option is you can replace the volley guns with auto cannons, which I would think about, because the auto cannons being strength 7 AP4 start hitting light vehicles. You're benefiting for your BS4. It's also a fast vehicle, which is nice. If the other Taurox was a fast vehicle, I'd contemplate it more, because it'd be zipping about and turbo, getting its flat out moves and getting across the board and getting your units to places you need them to be. With it not being, I wouldn't. So that's the troop choices in your dedicated transports. As I said before, your platoons haven't changed much other than price decreases, which is always nice. Your veterans have got the same treatment, reduction in price. The options which you were arguing over what to take have got cheaper, and the one I really want to use has got cheaper, which is always nice. You've lost Sergeant Bistone, whatever the name of the other veteran character was, which is a shame, because you could issue orders to his squad specifically, which I will admit with the orders you've got would have been very nice, which is a shame he's gone, but he has. So you've got Sergeant Harker if you want a veteran, your special veteran. Your Chimeras, your dedicated transports. My top choice is either the Chimera or the Taurox Prime if you've got some Stormtroopers, because that's the only people who can take the Taurox Prime. So generally stick with your Chimeras, and I think that's about it. I'll go, and I'll be back again tomorrow, hopefully, with elites. And that was troop choices and dedicated transport. So comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.